All right, let's dive into something that I think everyone listening can relate to. Ordering pizza.
Ah,
Like, who doesn't love
yes.
pizza?
Absolutely.
Would you ever find yourself, like, kind of struggling to order it in English?
It's true. Even if you have a pretty good grasp of the language, ordering food over the phone, there's kind of its own, like, set of challenges.
Yeah.
Like, there are specific phrases, there's almost a certain rhythm to it that, can help you sound a little more natural, a little more confident.
Yeah, like, you don't sound like you're just, like, reading off a script.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, okay, we're going to break down some of the key terms and phrases to help you navigate ordering pizza.
Sounds good.
So let's start with the basics,
Mm.
sizes. You got your mediums and your larges, pretty straightforward, but you might also hear people order by inches,
Right.
like a 12-inch pizza or an 18-inch pizza.
Yeah, that's a good point. Using inches is a much more precise way to order, and it's
Yeah.
really common in places where, the pizza sizes might vary a bit from place to place.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you got the size down. Now let's move on to the good stuff, the toppings. Pepperoni, a classic. That spicy cured sausage, that seems to find its way onto most pizzas.
Yeah. And pepperoni is interesting because it actually highlights something kind of interesting about American English. It's borrowed from Italian, but in Italy, they actually use the singular pepperone to refer to bell peppers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, it's just a subtle difference, but it kind of shows you how language can evolve and adapt as it kind of, travels across cultures.
So pepperoni is an American invention. Huh, interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah. Okay. Another classic topping that you'll often hear is olives, green or black, adding that nice, salty, briny flavor.
Oh, yeah, olives. Good way to add a little Mediterranean flair to your pizza.
Exactly.
And of course, we can't forget extra cheese. Because honestly, who doesn't love extra cheese?
Right. And here we see another pattern, using extra to modify an ingredient.
Right.
You could say extra mushrooms, extra onions, extra anything, really.
Extra everything. That's a pizza I can get behind.
But be careful, right?
Oh,
With that extra, because some toppings, they can be divisive.
you're talking about pineapple, aren't you?
Yeah.
The age-old debate, pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
There it is, the one that gets everybody going. It's like, it speaks to a larger point about food and culture.
Yep.
It's considered delicious or even acceptable in one culture, might be completely frowned upon in another.
Okay. So, pineapple on pizza,
Mm-hmm.
maybe crossing a cultural boundary for some, I get it. Let's move on before we start a food fight.
All right. All right.
Okay, so we got our size, we got our toppings. What else do we need to consider?
Well, the foundation of any good pizza, of course, the crust.
Yeah.
Thin crust is always a popular choice, with that crispy, satisfying bite.
The crust, just to clarify, is that outer edge of the pizza that holds all that deliciousness together.
Exactly.
And then thin crust, meaning that, well, the crust is thin.
It is thin, yes.
Right.
But there are other options too, right? Thick crust, stuffed crust. There's a whole world of crust variations out there. And again, a lot of these different styles, they'll reflect regional preferences and culinary traditions.
So it's not just about the toppings. The crust can tell a story too, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you where the pizza comes from, how it's made, all that.
So we covered the pizza itself, but there's another crucial element to ordering like a pro, the language.
Oh, yeah. You got to get the language down.
Like the actual words, the phrases.
Yeah, using the right phrases can just make you sound, more polite, more confident. It's like knowing the secret handshake to the pizza ordering club,
I like that. Yeah. So, for example, when you answer the phone, you wouldn't just say, I am your name.
Right, right. Like I remember back in English class, they'd always tell us that, when you answer the phone, you should always say,
This is your name speaking.
yeah, exactly. Sounds a little more formal, a little more professional. It shows you understand like the etiquette of phone conversations,
Yeah.
which can be, quite important in, English speaking cultures.
Right.
So, just a small thing to keep in mind.
Got it. This is your name speaking. I'll make a note of that.
Little details.
Yes, those little details.
Okay. Another good example is, using the phrase, would you like? It's just a polite way to offer choices.
Okay.
And it just makes the whole ordering process go a little more smoothly. So, for example, instead of asking, like, do you want pepperoni? You would say...
Would you have pepperoni on your pizza?
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because would you like?
Mm,
It sounds a lot more inviting, less like an interrogation.
right.
I'm starting to see how these phrases can really, like, up your pizza ordering game.
It's like learning the special moves. You know what I mean?
Right.
To impress the pizza master and ensure that you get a delicious and satisfying pizza experience.
Speaking of impressing the pizza master,
Uh-huh.
any other like insider phrases that I should know?
Yeah. Well, you might hear them say something like, 2-for-1 special. Always a good deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the classic, your order will arrive in 30 minutes or it's free. A bold promise.
Right. Talk about confidence. I feel like now I'm not just ordering a pizza, I'm entering a whole new world of language and culture.
You are. That's what's so cool about language learning.
Yeah.
It's not just about vocabulary and grammar. It's about understanding, the customs, the history, all the little nuances that shape how people communicate.
It's like this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, it's like opening up a whole new way of seeing the world.
Yeah, like learning a language is like getting a backstage pass to a different culture.
Right.
You start to see things from like a totally different perspective.
Mm,
Even something as simple as ordering pizza can become this like cultural adventure.
I love that. Speaking of cultural adventures, you remember that video we watched with the Italian pizza expert?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He had some pretty strong opinions about American-style pizza.
Yeah, he was not on board with like piling on all the toppings.
Yeah.
He really thought it was like straying too far from the simplicity of, traditional Italian pizza.
He even suggested calling American pizza zippa, just to differentiate it.
Right.
It's kind of a funny term, but it does bring up an interesting question about authenticity in food. Like, who gets to decide what's authentic?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because let's be honest, pizza has evolved so much since its origins in Naples.
Absolutely.
It's become this global phenomenon, and every culture has kind of put their own spin on it.
Right. You've got your deep dish in Chicago, your New York style thin crust, California style gourmet pizzas with all sorts of interesting toppings. I mean, it's really.
And don't forget all the regional variations around the world. Tandoori chicken pizza in India, seafood pizza in Japan, even dessert pizzas with like fruit and chocolate.
Yeah. It seems like everyone has their own version.
Right.
So the idea of like one authentic pizza, it almost becomes meaningless.
Yeah.
It's more about appreciating the diversity and the creativity that come from, this kind of cultural exchange.
Yeah, I like that. Embracing the evolution of pizza.
Mm.
It's like food is this living language,
Yeah. Yeah.
constantly changing and adapting as it travels across, borders and generations.
It's fascinating. And that idea of authenticity, it's not just limited to food. We see it in music, fashion, art, any form of cultural expression, really.
So it's this ongoing conversation about tradition versus innovation,
Mm,
about, preserving cultural heritage while also allowing it to evolve and be reinterpreted.
exactly. And language is a key part of that conversation.
Seriously.
Right? The words we use, the stories we tell, the way we express ourselves, it all contributes to how a culture is shaped and shared.
We've been talking a lot about pizza as a reflection of culture, but there's another aspect we haven't really touched on, pizza etiquette.
Oh, that's right. How we eat pizza can vary across cultures, too.
Right.
Like, for example, in Italy, it's common to fold your pizza slice in half lengthwise before taking a bite.
Really? I always just like to grab a slice and dive in.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something as simple as how you hold a slice of pizza can be influenced by these, cultural norms and traditions.
Right, right.
Some cultures, it might even be considered rude to eat with your hands, while in others, it's perfectly fine.
So I guess it's just all about being aware of those subtle differences and being respectful of, local customs.
Mm.
Wouldn't want to accidentally commit a pizza faux pas.
Exactly. Speaking of faux pas, we can't forget the ketchup on pizza debate.
Oh, yeah, right.
Might be a common practice in some parts of the world, but, to many pizza purists, it's simply sacrilege.
I got to admit, I'm kind of a traditionalist when it comes to pizza toppings, but hey, to each their own right.
Absolutely. It's all about, exploring those different flavors, preferences, being open-minded.
Right.
And that open-mindedness, it's essential for language learning, too.
Yeah, because you can encounter different accents, different dialects, different ways of, expressing the same idea.
Right. It's all about embracing that diversity, understanding that there's no one right way to speak English.
So what does this all mean for our listeners who are like, really eager to order pizza like a native English speaker?
I mean, first and foremost, don't be afraid to use those colloquialisms and idioms that we talked about.
Right.
Things like extra cheese, thin crust, 2-for-1 special. Those are phrases you're going to hear all the time in real conversations.
And remember those polite expressions like, this is your name speaking, and would you like...
Yes.
They might seem like small details, but they can make you sound so much more confident, fluent.
Absolutely. And beyond the practicalities of ordering, just remember that language is so much more than just words and grammar rules. It's a window into a culture, a way of connecting with people and understanding their perspectives.
So don't just learn the words for pepperoni and olives. Learn about, the history of pizza, the different ways it's enjoyed around the world, the passionate debates it can spark.
Exactly. Embrace that full sensory experience of language learning.
Yeah.
The flavors, the aromas, those lively conversations that make it so much more than just a textbook exercise.
I love that. It's like savor the language,
Yeah.
just like you would savor a delicious slice of pizza.
Well said. Who knows? Maybe one day you'll even be confident enough to, weigh in on that pineapple on pizza debate yourself.
Now that's a challenge I'm willing to accept. But before we get too carried away with our pizza fantasies here,
Yeah.
I think it's time to start wrapping up this deep dive.
Agreed. We've covered a lot of ground. Pizza sizes, toppings, cultural insights, the importance of embracing those colloquialisms.
We learned that ordering pizza in English, it's about more than just getting the food you want. It's about constantly navigating,
Yeah.
the language and the cultural nuances that surround this beloved dish.
We hope this deep dive has given you the tools and the inspiration to order your next pizza with, fluency and flair.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm suddenly craving a zippa with extra cheese.
You can't say I blame you. But before you go, we'd like to leave you with one final thought to chew on.
All right, lay it on us. What's that final thought? Something to ponder as we enjoy our next pizza, right?
How about this? Think about how food customs, like the way we order or eat pizza, they reflect those deeper cultural values and identities.
Oh, okay, yeah. Like, we're not just talking about pizza anymore, huh?
No.
We're talking about something much bigger.
It's about paying attention to those subtle details, those seemingly insignificant choices that can actually, reveal a lot about a culture's priorities, social norms, even its history.
So next time I'm enjoying a pizza, I should be thinking about, not just the taste, but the story behind it, the cultural influences that shaped it, what it says about the people who created it.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe that deeper understanding will even make the pizza taste better.
I love that. Knowledge is the ultimate flavor enhancer.
Well said. So to all our pizza-loving listeners out there, go forth, order with confidence, eat with curiosity, and keep exploring those fascinating connections between food, language, and culture.
Bon appetit, everyone, and happy English learning.